Got it. Awesome. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, back at it, the doctor's chat. What the health? Dr. Greg Eckel.
Dr. Jonathan Nadal.
And we happen to be coming at you from the same city where we are both live and in the same place here in Portland, Oregon, the heart and epicenter, world headquarters of Nature Cures Clinic, right here, coming at you live. And we have had a lively day in the clinic, and we've been talking over the last few episodes around longevity. And we figured we should really touch base on our general approach and what sets us apart and how we view your health and your longevity. And I was recently asked, Doc, on another podcast, what sets apart, what is longevity to you and what sets you apart? I was talking about, the first tenet of longevity is don't die. And these doctors did not like that as an answer. She
Really?
said, basically they pushed back and said, well, I mean, that's pretty simplistic. Now they got I drove it home over the hour conversation with them. However, it made me think hey, what is our general approach? What is our thinking about health as naturopathic doctors and Chinese medicine practitioners? Because, we go to all of these great conferences, integrative therapies, integrative conferences, and meet a lot of conventionally trained doctors. And a lot of them, will say off record or around the lunch table, gosh, I really wish I went to naturopathic medical school. And I think, gosh, I really wish you did too. And on that, I mean, we just learned differently on how to think about health, how to think about the body, how to think about therapeutic hierarchy and what we're doing. And so if I just kind of open it up with that question for you, let's start with, with all of those pieces in there, what is your view of longevity? What does that mean? Why do we want to have longevity as a focus in our practice? What are we doing with that?
Yeah, excellent. I mean, when we think of the idea of don't die, it's at face value, sure, it's simple, but everything that's required for that. So when I think of longevity, I think, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, being able to think clearly, move clearly, feel, and just connect with my community and be creative. Everything that we're meant to do in a thriving environment and life is what I think of more with longevity. It's not enough to just be, stuck in a home when you're 80, that could be fine. But if you're out there and you're thriving, and we have patients that are doing that, that's really the ticket. When it comes to how we approach it, from naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, Chinese medicine, ultimately it's all really similar, where it's a lot more of a holistic model. Not just if you have symptoms of your brain or your gut, it's connected to something else. No, it's fundamentally you are a physical, emotional, spiritual being that's on this planet, moving through time and space. That is what we're treating, the individual as a whole. Even thinking to this morning, because you're right, today was a pretty packed day with a lot of different ideas, even updating some intake forms to have more, emotionally insightful questions, just to capture that piece of what our patients are experiencing, right? To even the fun chat we had over lunch, which we can get into that later. But I mean, really using the most cutting edge medicine and sciences to really getting as deep as we can to treat the root cause, which is another idea with naturopathic medicine. More terrain focused medicine, right? As opposed to just chasing symptoms. A lot of the MDs that we talk to in these conferences and seminars, even checking some of the things that we do really often, whether it's metals or gut or hormones, they're like, wait, you can check that? I'm yeah. And it's just urine and it's simple. It's amazing that it's not more common knowledge, a lot of the things that we do. And I'm just glad that we can talk about it with other doctors and get live like this. But to back it up a little bit, so foundations of health, more terrain-based, holistic-based, really taking a deep dive and actually testing functionally and figuring out what's going on with the person rather than just doing pills or blind medications or surgeries in hopes that they might fix things blindly, right?
Will you tease out what terrain means? Because that might not be, that's not common knowledge to everybody. So what do you mean by that?
I think a good and a relevant example is, so even if we think of the gut, for instance, right? It's an entire like it's an ecosystem, right? So if we think about different GI conditions and, this really intense approach, which might be called for sometimes, to say you blast someone with an antibiotic, right? That's more chasing the bad bacteria that's in there, or the bad guys, right?
Mm.
A more functional terrain approach, if that's needed, that's fine, but supporting the actual GI tract and the GI lining and all the components around it, right? That's more thinking about it as far as a terrain level, and that's more tangible. But even below that, I mean, we know that the immune system, for instance, the nervous system and endocrine system, like all these things work in tandem constantly. So you can't go in there and just try and change one or two variables in hopes that it'll change a person or their symptoms, unless you're addressing all the systems as they connect and manifest through what usually is some type of symptom picture that's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Is that a little more clear?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. I think it is a different approach. It's not germ theory or bug backed. It's not about a disease process. It really is on the vitality of the individual, which is the different approach and the different way. I'm just going back to this interview that I just got off of this morning and talking about the oneness or unified field theory of kind of how, my life events basically changed my view of what we're doing on the planet, how we're behaving, really lifted the veil for me as far as, really speaking into, this is an illusion, us being on different sides of this screen, you all listening in your living rooms or cars or out on your walk. It feels really real as an illusion, right? I mean, the mattered form, this wavelength that is slowed down so much to get into this solid aspect, it feels like when you push on it, I mean, if you're going fast and you fall, that definitely hurts. And at the same time, we know at the same time in reality, when you really start to push on those things, there's nothing there, right? This is a projection out of the ethers of where we are. So it is, that component of how am I, or how are we bringing that discussion of a quantum reality into this Newtonian 3D sphere. And, actually, what does that look like in the real world? Because these docs, they're like, hey, that's all fine and good, Dr. Greg, but, really, how do you help people? Like, there's suffering out here, there are symptoms, there's disease processes. And, I kind of hearken it into this terrain discussion in a wholeness approach or unified field. Well, what does that mean? It means, as you move higher and higher up a frequency of wave forms, there's only a small perceptive band that we see with UV light or light spectrum. And so there's a whole bunch of cell phone technology and these things, radio waves that are beaming that we can't see with our eyes, but we know are real because information is traveling on that waveform. Well, that is the approach that we're striving for and having that discussion. It's not always pretty or eloquent in the way that we discuss it because, we haven't really been taught about this stuff, but looking at how do we harness our body's ability and really maximize the potency and the power of what we're capable of doing. And in a quantum field, that means above the light frequency, that takes time out of the equation. And that starts to make our heads go, well, that sounds really woo-woo, doctor. It's just because we haven't really grokked or grappled or contemplated these concepts, but science is actually way ahead of the game on this. I mean, just as an aside, when you hear the science is settled, please run for the hills, because that is so anti-science. That statement is ridiculous, actually, and is being used to manipulate people. Science is never settled. That's the whole concept of science. So, sorry, that's just an aside. I had to put that out there.
No, it's true. It's a method. It's a method, right?
It is a method. It's a mode of inquiry. It is a formula to prove or disprove a hypothesis. So, even cellular biology is not settled, believe it or not. So, we're working on a lot of hypotheses and assumptions in general. So bringing that discussion into this larger, maybe some would call esoteric conversation, but in our approach at Nature Cures, and now at bVital too, our second clinic in our fleet, or wellness and recharging center, and there's a reason why we named it that. It is really bringing these quantum theories into the living laboratory of our lives, and how do we expedite our change? Well, one working hypothesis that I have is dis-ease is separation from the one. Whatever your belief system is, we know there's 3 truths that I think we can all agree on. You were born, you're going to live, and you're going to die. I mean, the rest of it is story. We're going to make up a story. I happen to like my story. I'm sure you like your story. And, you probably have ample evidence over here as to why your story is better than mine. And that's okay. At the same time, I, as a clinician, Dr. Nadal, we want to affect change in the positive. In somebody comes in to see us, we want you to be in a higher state of health after you've engaged with us. And so, working on terrain, this concept of feeding the innate intelligence the proper materials for it to heal, removing obstacles to cure, the concept of docere, which means teacher, that's doctor in Latin, really engaging you in the process. I mean, the answer actually lies within. We happen to be very good listeners. Most of our patients tell us exactly the path we need to go on to get back to Wellville. And then our job is, well, how do we make this more simple? How do we convey that message in a manner that you can hear it, interpret it in a way that's motivating for you? And also, hold the space, because it can be really lonely out there in dis-ease and disease states. And so, it really got me percolating on this concept of, okay, well, how are we different? How do we talk about this in a way that's actually usable and informative for folks? So I think starting out with us on that meta level, let's see if you want to add anything into that discussion there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, from the terrain and understanding the interruptions of health, removing the obstacles to cure, like kind of building the patient from the ground up, but we don't shy away from also kind of the top down, like more at that meta vibrational way. Because I mean, with most procedures, for instance, we're doing Qigong, right? That's part of what we're doing in the rooms. Almost every room has some different form of electromagnetic device or laser, whether it's a pad or a handheld laser. Even some of the programmed water, like some of the remedies that we're using. It's like at every step of the way in many different frequencies, not just foundationally, but also on the more energetic front, we are bridging that gap at every step of the way with our patients. So that's definitely different. I still don't know any other clinicians that are doing that much in both spheres. So
yeah. And so bringing and assessing and addressing at all of the levels, on the bioenergetic front, to the physical form, to the physiology, biochemistry, making sure we've got the right building blocks, for our DNA to assemble and create protein structures for form. That comes from diet and nutrition. There's movement that circulates the blood. Well, the healing properties of the body travel in the blood. So we want to inform what's in the blood. We also want to circulate the blood. There's thought processes, when we are in our limbic system or fear-based system, waiting for the other shoe to drop, we're not actually able to access our frontal lobe or prefrontal cortex, where that's the limitless possibilities. That's where options exist. That's where opportunities and possibilities live. But if we're not able to get into that state because of fear of whatever, fear of death is a big one. Fear of catching a cold, fear of catching COVID, fear of cancer, fear of war, fear of, food shortages, whatever. There's a gazillion different fears that we could have out here, right? That basically the mainstream media is propagating because it sells more goods and services. So you don't have a lot of people peddling love, or propagating love. I'm incorporating and recruiting you all listening and viewing to, become professional love beamers and live in your heart and open your heart up and share that with us, because we all, as humans, we crave that community, connection, love. And so that is really the secret sauce, I think, right there is coming at it with, one of our values in the clinic is, we call it cheer. C is for commitment to our own path and your path, engaging with us. H is heart-centeredness, which is, really coming from our hearts, treating others as we would love to be treated ourselves, or as esteemed. Sometimes we treat our family members or loved ones much better than we treat ourselves. So treating you all coming into engagement with us with that deep respect and open-heartedness that, connects us all together in this, 3D atmosphere that we find ourselves, is what we came for, really, is to connect. I'll just stop there with the H on our core values. E is enjoyment, E is expansion, and R is relationship. And we can kind of unpack those down the road here, but I wanted to land on that heart-centeredness and with love in particular in how we set up programs and plans. So let's use that as maybe a launching off into some of the new exciting therapies that we're putting together for folks, some of the behind the scenes work that we've been busy at, and how that fits into our overarching thought of health and longevity for folks.
Yeah, excellent. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes, us working on things and developing things and taking things, and
yes,
and it's fueled the fire. It's exciting. It's even coming up really soon. If we want to get into like some of the more like ozone-based therapies that.
Let's start. Yes, I definitely want to cover that on today's show. I'm thinking, actually, let's start with one other hypothesis, since I brought up kind of the science. Well, there's two, right? We just had the lunch meeting on one research study that we're going to get involved with for folks, that is really exciting. And then two, my working hypothesis as to why neurodegeneration is on the rise. And let's start with that, because it's a little bit bigger. Maybe, we just did the training down at bVital in Park City on ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So we're pulling some therapies into our clinics with regards to ketamine assisted psychotherapy. Never in my lifetime would I think that we would be able to do psychedelic assisted psychotherapies. And it is so amazing. I'm grateful, with lots of gratitude, and I am just amazed that this is coming to fruition in our lifetimes, Dr. Nadal.
Truly, yeah.
So one working hypothesis that Dr. Eckel has is, I'll just talk about me in the third person, right? Because that's kind of fun. So is that I feel that neurodegeneration is on the rise, not only because of environmental toxicities, but also because of unresolved traumas. unresolved traumas for the individual in this lifetime, also unresolved traumas in the family lineage for ancestral traumas that may have happened to our great, 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 great grandmothers, and some event triggered an epigenetic change. That epigenetic change came through our mothers and now is expressing itself in this day and age, this eternal present moment now. And so that concept, really came to me, through my own life path of, watching my wife Soraya pass really rapidly of CJD, but then also really tuning into the patients that I was sitting with all forms and varieties of neurodegeneration, and realizing maybe this is a defense mechanism, dementia or memory loss, a defense mechanism of the innate intelligence to say, you know what, we've made it this far in time, our 50s, 60s, 70s, that we haven't dealt this, the being hasn't dealt with these traumas. They're not going to in this lifetime. Let's just shut it down. And so there's some misfolded proteins or other degradation of the brain or synaptic processing that leads into mild cognitive impairment, dementia, Alzheimer's, CJD, Parkinson's, misfolded proteins, etc. When I start asking myself that question with my patient base, I would say 90% of the people that I see and encounter have some form. They may not register it as a trauma or maybe carrying the memories of trauma, but they had experienced traumas that haven't really been addressed, let go, released, etc. Life is brutal for most of us, and that nobody gets out of here alive. And so having that component or a therapeutic to bring in to, one, help create new neuronal pathways, two, create safe spaces for people to have experiences of old emotions that are stored in all of the cells of their body. Three, get in touch with the divine or oneness and release the ego state. I mean, we did a training down in Park City, Utah, where, we trained the trainers or facilitators where, we sat for others doing on the ketamine assisted psychotherapy, and then also participated in it because we wanted to experience it for ourselves if we're going to be doing it with our patients. I mean, I had never done that before, Dr. Nadal, and it was remarkable with what popped for so many people in the room. And these are like, we are healing the healers, so to speak. I mean, it's been a brutal 3 years for everybody on the planet, but especially those that are caring for others on a grand scale. And just to see, one, it was so humbling to create an environment where that could happen. The safety, everybody was feeling very safe. The words that I want to just share, like around community and safety and healing, were profound. And I'll leave it there and just kind of see where you want to go with that.
All right, that's one of the best words for it. I mean, it was profound. It was, when I shared this with someone, they said, it sounds like it was life-changing. And then I said inwardly, I was like, no, wait a minute. No, yeah, that's life-changing. Because
yeah,
inwardly, if things change enough and kind of transmute into their own, I mean, that is outwardly how we'll see and engage with the world again, right? And it was holding that space. It was like 10, 11 of us, and we took turns just day to day. And then even the people that were helping us, the trainer, like it was just a beautiful experience. It was like a glimpse into the realm of what's possible as far as human beings and their emotions and how we process it. You look around and everybody was having their own experience, and it was impressive that we can hold a safe space like that and do that work together. So
yeah, it was really beautiful. And to know, this is available to folks now. I mean, off-label prescribing of the ketamine at low doses for recalcitrant depression, anxiety, PTSD, trauma. We're looking at, there's some research on new neurogenesis. So putting that into therapeutic benefit for folks with neurodegeneration. Making new neuronal connections. I'm really hot on the on the research, looking to see what's coming out around that. And so I think it's a super, you know, in 2023 in Oregon, we have psychedelic assisted psychotherapy with some training and other things like that. If there are any providers out there that are interested, the group that trained us down in Utah is looking to come up into Oregon, the Portland area. We have some really lovely land up here that we're wanting to facilitate some of those trainings for you all. So please reach out to us around that front, because there's more than enough suffering in this world. And, you know, this new kind of dawning of the new age. Yes, I will get a little woo woo. I am a hippie at heart. Come on. Having the ability to facilitate this for folks and have them gain realizations and the potency of their own healing potential. I think it shows tremendous promise and is very exciting. So I won't drone on about that one, because I think we've done it full justice, at least for today's show. And I think what we will do, we'll have maybe Dr. Stephanie and Dr. Bob on as far as interviewing them on their experiences. They were our trainers. And, you know, really sharing them with you all, because it is really fascinating work. All right. So other programs that are coming up, so coupling that in with, of course, our Nature Cures Brain Regeneration Camp, the largest lever that we've got and have discovered for folks to help regenerate the brain.
Yeah.
What else do we want to add in here?
Yeah, I mean, so dealing with the trauma component and all the things with neurodegen, I love it, and it's so true. I remember years ago when we first started chatting about this, and you're like, we got to figure out what's causing the misfolded proteins.
Yes,
now,
the $1 trillion question. Yeah.
Yeah. Now maybe the biochemistry might be harder to figure out, but somewhere on the other side in the ether, I mean, trauma and however that translates is kind of, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to mention that, because it popped up. But as far as some other therapies and treatments, a fun one, just to go back to it, definitely some of this ozone and oxygenation therapy.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you talk about the brain regen program and involving like some of the laser applications and the reintroduction of the blood and the V cells, which we've talked about in other videos, right? Well, what happens if we're able to like purify the blood before? That's a fun, exciting new development.
I am really excited about it. So we're pulling in EBU technology, which is extracorporeal blood ozonation and oxygenation. It just rolls off the tongue, right? And so what is that? That is a potent, you can also add UBI, which it's red light therapy to blood, to eradicate any viruses, molds, bacterias, in addition to ozone therapy in the blood. So it's exposing the blood to ozone. So blood comes out of the body really dark red, goes through the processing machine of the EBU, and then comes back into the body bright red, which is fully oxygenated with an O3 molecule, which is ozone. That third oxygen molecule will go and gather any free radicals, any viruses, yeast, bacteria, etc. So the EBU is about 40 times more potent than a 10-pass ozone therapy, which is kind of the most advanced ozone now out there on the market. So EBU far surpasses that. One EBU treatment is, I think, the equivalent to 20 to 30 ozone treatments. So it is very potent, powerful, time effective, and also results effective. And so there's many like autoimmune conditions, clearing viruses, Epstein-Barr, cytomegalo, herpes simplex, like these latent low-grade viruses that are hanging around that we know mimic other disease processes. So we are going to put that in at the front end of all of our brain regeneration programs. So by kind of cleaning the blood, and I put big air quotes for folks that are just listening there around cleaning, and then taking the blood the next day, activating it with the laser and activating those V cells. We are anticipating, but again, in a scientific inquiry, we have to measure this, a better outcome, a faster outcome, bigger results. So I'm excited. I know a couple physicians that have put that in before their procedures. Time will tell whether that's going to be more beneficial or not. It does make a lot of sense to me to do that, though.
Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah, that's coming up this weekend. So
yes. So our training behind the scenes between the ketamine assisted psychotherapy from 2 weeks ago to our EBU training Friday and Saturday of this week, the doctors are getting educated and bringing in new therapeutics specifically for you listeners and viewers out there, because, we're always wanting to improve. Like, one of the kind of the dogma that I have around here is a center of excellence. So, it's not so much the answers that you have, but it's the questions that you're asking. And one of the questions that I ask myself is, what does better look like? What does thriving, how good can it get? Why are we not asking those questions? Well, we are asking those questions. And what happens is these therapies come to us of saying, well, hey, try this. Like, let's put that in and see, what does that help you thrive more? Does that get you better quicker? Is it a bigger lever to push on for you and your patients? So that is kind of, behind the scenes thinking in the doctor's minds. We're going to just be explicit and bring it out of our brains, right? Because it's a dangerous neighborhood to be in by yourself. So we want to share all of this stuff with you all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've got the other thing that we are running is our liver, brain and liver detox that we are doing. We run these 3 times a year. And, when we talk about the EBU and cleaning the blood, and I talked about blood flow as being essential for health, well, the liver, all of our blood gets filtered through the liver. Naturopathically, we do think about liver detoxes and cleanses. When you go on Dr. Google and you start Googling that, or whatever your favorite search engine is, there's a lot of people that poo-poo the liver cleanse. And I am not exactly sure why. They say, oh, well, the liver, it detoxes itself. It just takes care of itself. How do you answer that for people?
I think it's ridiculous to, even your car filter, that's what it does, but you got to change it sometimes, right? It's not, that's the simplest analogy I got. If your liver is burdened every day, even if you eat healthy, drink good water, and breathe healthy, there's still so many toxins and pollutants in our environment. It's hard to get away from all of it. And our liver is constantly bombarded with it. So giving it a little pause and some nutrients and things to help upregulate and clean some of it out is there a filter in our world right now, whether it's your AC, dryer, car, what filter doesn't get replaced or cleaned? Tell me one. There's no such thing. So it's, I don't know, especially the liver and the kidneys, they do so much all day, every day, that it's just par for the course. And that's all through analogy. But even the biochemistry shows, we know that labs improve after going through a detox. We know that we feel better, look a little younger, and think more clearly if you do detoxes on a regular basis. So the proof is in the pudding, or whatever.
Yeah, you've got to change the filter. All of our hormones also get filtered, some manufactured in the liver. So a lot of times, women with difficult menses, painful menses, extra bleeding, going through perimenopause, which means next to menopause, or going into menopause with the hot flashes and other symptoms that can occur. Those are all liver symptoms in the naturopathic world. And they actually do improve. Most of them improve, right? There's not 100% guarantee on anything. But most of them improve when you start addressing the phase 1 and phase 2 route of elimination on your lovely cytochrome P450 cycle, which is the detoxification pathways of the liver. I know for some of you geeks out there, you wanted to know those technical terms. So I wanted to, and I say that affectionately, geeks is, that's a sexy term these days, right? Yeah, I think so. So anyways, so the liver detoxes. The other thing that we wanted to talk about was what we went over, some of the research studies that we're excited to get involved with. We just had a meeting over the lunchtime, and this will really interest those with neurodegeneration in thinking about hosting and holding some webinars around this topic. So some colleagues of ours have been involved in fecal matter transfers, really focused on the gastrointestinal tract, C. difficile, SIBO, Crohn's, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, along those lines. And they had a slide up with regards to neurology. And since that is our expertise and focus area, said, hey, what are you seeing? What are you seeing with neurodegeneration with patients with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, dementia? And, they said, well, honestly, our focus has been over here in gastroenterology land because it's been more sanctioned, but there's more and more evidence and research coming out with different microbiome, different bacteria, gut bacteria for different conditions. Neurotransmitter are manufactured in the gut. So this one, and I'm going to say pun intended, is a no-brainer for the gut-brain axis. But yeah, you want to share what the product is and what we're thinking here?
Yeah. It's so I think thanks for leaving me that part. We could say it, right? Thena is the company, and it's very much akin to a probiotic, but it's more along the lines of a postbiotic as well, right? Whereas opposed to getting, just lab-based derived bacteria or things to put together, this is coming from healthy human samples. And, they went through all the, of course, there's autoclaving and everything is sanitary and healthy and fine to consume in this way. But it sounds like, the comparison for some probiotics, having 7 to 10 times the amount, and their numbers were more like 200 to 300 times the amount of actual beneficial material in the product. That's a staggering number. So the science is checking out bit by bit, and I'm really excited and curious to start using it with some of our patients, because even the whole FMT is just not available to everybody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of regulations around it, but now on the flip side, if it could just be in the form of a supplement or a pill,
yeah,
it's super bioavailable. And I like something that one of the doctors had mentioned, where it's really, sure, neurotransmitters, they're having their impact in the brain, but really they're also enterotransmitters because they're first built in the gut, right? So that was a cool just shift in perspective that a lot of
the other thing that I really loved of the conversation, was around 75% of the microbiome is anaerobic. And so when we're taking these supplements, we're taking bacterial probiotic strains that are aerobic in nature. So we're only getting 25% of the information that our guts actually need.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was another aha moment for me of this is that gut component is not just about the bugs. It's really around, we have the GALT, the gut associated lymphoid tissue that surrounds the bowel, which is our immune system. And it's around the gut immunocomplexes that are formed, the cell signaling, that I also think that's the way that some of the stem cell therapeutics work. Exosomes work that way too, as far as setting up cell signaling and communication that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm excited. So keep your eyes posted here, folks. We've got, maybe in the next month to 6 weeks, we'll have some more information on those programs and the research that we're going to be coupling up with them to collect and do, which is really exciting. We're utilizing a lot of gut protocols with our patients with neurodegeneration because we see the importance of the gut. We do microbiome testing on all of our patients with neurodegeneration as part of a kind of the three-legged stool, I guess, pun intended again. Boy, I'm just on a roll, Dr. Nadal.
It's okay. It's just flowing out of you. Yeah.
Nice. So that's exciting component. The other things locally that we're doing in the Portland market and in the Park City market are around IV therapy and all core.
Mm-hmm.
IV therapy, the IV bars, I think it's coming more and more into the general consciousness of the population. I think there are some good things and bad things about that, as far as like thinking you're going to just get an IV drip and everything's going to be good.
Yeah.
Without any other assessment or discussion, just, sign me up for a Myers cocktail. I'll be good. Those nutrients, one, it does give you a lot of hydration. There are some great nutrients in there. And I think it's a bigger discussion. That's the difference between a naturopathic approach and an allopathic or Western approach, which is it's about the substance. You need the substance, versus the naturopathic approach, like Dr. Nadal so nicely stated early on, it's about the terrain and really hitting all of the levels of what we need to talk about, discuss there. So, they do have their place. We do have an IV therapy suite. We're bringing in the EBU to do ozone therapies. We do multivitamin mineral drips. We do NAD, which is the darling of the longevity movement, which it feeds the mitochondria of your cells. We do high dose vitamin C as a oxidative stress to the system to create redox reactions and clean the blood, so to speak. I was just talking to a functional biologic dentist that ran high dose vitamin C for their longer procedures with, redoing, taking amalgams out, redoing or filling root canals, kind of correcting some of the conventional dentistry stuff that leads to a lot of chronic disease and illness. So anything else on the IV front that you want to mention?
No, I mean, you hit all the main points. It's not just a silver bullet in a bag, right? It feels good and there's a lot of nutrients in it, but if you're not addressing any underlying cause or removing the obstacles to cure, it can be short-lived. So, I mean, we're happy to do it, but we're going to ask some more questions too and get to the bottom of what's going on.
Yeah, do it a little bit more completely. What do you like about IV therapy?
Just the way that it's bypassing so many of the other, like when you take certain oral supplements, whether it's vitamin C or magnesium, you have to take so much for you to actually increase serum levels of this nutrient. Because one thing is what's going on in the blood, another thing is actually getting down into the cell. So our cells are very tightly regulated. So an IV is a great way to actually increase serum levels a lot more readily than taking oral supplementation. So especially with the handful of our patients that are already taking a bunch of pills, this is super easy. Personally, like before travel or when I know that maybe seasons are changing, I like to get some IV therapy done just because I know it's just going to bump me up to the next level. But so long as all the foundational pieces are in place, right? But I love the bioavailability of it, the ease of it. You just sit down in a chair for an hour and a half, and you get a mega dose of things that would otherwise take you almost a week to consume orally.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
One other therapy we'd be remiss to not talk about is the all core 360.
I mean, we're hitting like 100 muscles in like 10 minutes. When I first saw it installed, I thought it was straight up like a training thing from NASA. It's one of those.
Yeah.
It's an impressive device, and the way that it has you rotate, I mean, there just isn't really a workout that you can do to replace what you're getting out of that, and you're just sitting down and you're strapped in. It's the doctor that came up with it, he's big on explaining the difference between isometric or isotonic, right? Like as far as like keeping those muscles in the position that they're naturally meant to be in, and really reinforcing that core. Because if you're doing 100, 200 crunches a day, there's only so much of the core that you're actually engaging. With this device and the right angles,
Right.
everything is getting lit up. So I mean, when you're done, you're sweating or shaking or both. Like, so.
Right. Yeah. So it's a machine you sit in, you get strapped in, and then it starts to rotate, and it rotates at different levels of incline. So you can hit all of the muscle fibers. So I love it because it hits all 50 plus pelvic core muscles. It shows you where you have inefficiencies, imbalances. We're doing it from athletes to folks post-stroke, and it helps fire proprioception, your place in space. So if you're having any balance issues, having trouble getting up out of the chair, those core muscles are not engaging, are imbalanced. If you have any back pain, for one ride, 50% of people experience a decrease of back pain if they're having back pain anywhere on their back with just doing one ride on the all core. So it's re-engaging muscles that long ago went out of balance, or you accommodated. Like for me, hockey player, right-handed hockey player, I broke my right ankle. I had right hip issues for a decade. And when I ride that thing, my core gets, one, I'm starting to develop 6-pack abs, which is kind of fun. Never had them in my life. And two, my posture is much better. I don't have that low belt back pain from sitting all day. I feel a little bit higher, actually, a half an inch higher, quarter to a half an inch, because I am actually, my posture is changing because the muscles are becoming more toned through those core muscles. So it is, it's so good that I actually had to get it in both of the clinics from traveling back and forth. I did not want to take a break from it because I feel so good doing it. So if you all are in those local areas, I really encourage you, if you haven't taken us up on it, come out for some free rides and try it for yourself. And if you're not local, because I know we have listeners from around the globe, look to see if you have any in your community. You can go to allcore360.com and do a little web search there. They're great folks, and their hearts are in the right spot. So I think we covered it. We've got all of the therapies. We've got our therapeutic frameworks, and we talked about new and exciting things that we've been doing in the background that are coming to therapeutic benefit to you soon. You want to add anything else in, Dr. Nadal?
No, that's perfect. That's
love
great.
it.
Yeah.
That is a wrap, everybody. Thank you. We would not be doing this without you. If you like today's show, go out there, give us a 5-star review. Also, share us with your friends and family, because that's what makes a difference. I love it. I really appreciate you for getting the word out. I am now meeting people as I travel around to different events and different educational components of going to lecture to other doctors. People are hearing about us. So that is so fun. And we want to help. We want to expedite the change. So be the change, as one of my heroes, Gandhi, said. So much love to you all. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week on the Doctor's Chat. What the Health. Take care, everybody.
Be well.